It's not there. Now, I'm not telling you this, showing you the fault of these people, because when I found this out, I was preaching that you have to make Jesus your personal Lord and Savior. That this is a personal thing. And that if you don't engage, it's not yours. That you are the one that makes Jesus the Lord of your life. You must make Jesus Lord. Wow. I want you to stop and think about that just a moment. That's a big book. Yes, you do. I need a bigger book here. I've got even more out here. Think about that just a moment. You have to make Jesus Lord. A human being, you were required in church, and this is the difference between heaven and hell. You have to make Jesus Lord. Isn't it amazing that the entire basis of Christianity is based on a false statement that is not even in the Bible? I mean, you know, I'm used to trying to read things in context and going back and saying, I wonder what that means in context. And I tried to find the verses where it says, you are required to make Jesus the Lord. You are required to make Jesus Lord. And I can't even find it out of context. It's just not there. You see, we turned it all around and we placed the emphasis. Now let me tell you, I believe in the Lordship of Jesus. Let me tell you some things I do believe before, so that you can be at peace in your heart. Not with God. You're already at peace with God. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in God the Father. I believe that Jesus was the prophesied Savior and Redeemer of the world spoken of by the Scriptures. I believe that Jesus was born of a virgin. I believe that Jesus taught an earthly ministry for 3.5 years, in which he performed miracles, healed the sick, cleansed the lepers, and raised the dead. I believe that Jesus went to the Garden of Gethsemane, and in that excruciating time knew the will of the Father for his life, and knew that he was about to drink the dregs of the cup of God's wrath. I believe that Jesus drank that cup. I believe that Jesus died for the sin of the entire world. I believe that Jesus Christ physically raised from the dead. His body came out of the ground. I believe that he taught for 40 days different people at different times on the face of planet Earth. After which he was ascended into heaven and is seated now at the right hand of the throne of God. I believe that. I believe that with all of my heart. This is a lot of times when you try to share freedom with people, they seem to think you must have departed from some basics of the tenets of the faith. That you are no longer a real believer. I remember one of the elders in our church that I had been a member of for many, many years, and I remember the first time I sent him I traveled all the time, and I sent him a little series of tapes and was talking about Jesus being the Redeemer of the world and challenging some of these little statements and stuff, you know. And I got a Christmas card that year, and he was telling me, you know, hi Mike, you know, I did listen to some of the tapes, but I admit I didn't listen to all of them. And all I can say is, and you can just hear his heart bleeding, I just hope you still love Jesus. You know, and it's like, what? It's like, how can you get that out of this? I love him more now than I ever conceived I could have possibly loved him. I mean, before, I used to believe he was going to come back on a white horse and kill everybody that didn't believe in him. And throw them all in hell and destroy them. I mean, and that was 80% of the population of the world. And it's like, wait a minute. Now I understand that Jesus redeemed the whole world, and you think I love him less for it? I mean, even if I'm wrong, I would love him more for it. So it's strange, the response that you get when you challenge very basic principles of people's assumptions. I'm not even going to call them beliefs, because, folks, you cannot believe that you have to make Jesus your personal Lord and Savior. That ain't a belief. That's an assumption. Because it just doesn't exist in the Bible. It is a complete and utter assumption. Let me make just another point. It all has to do with the gospel of peace. I remember doing months and months and months of study about that one thing. You remember at the Garden of Gethsemane? And you remember how that when Jesus was there and he was facing the cross, and remember his prayer? And he prayed, God, if there's any way, let this cup pass from me. Now, was it a Dixie cup? Was it a communion cup? When we deal with things about Jesus Christ, we have to rely on the Scriptures, the law, the Psalms, and the prophets. And the only cup that the prophets spoke of, and you'll probably remember it, when God was saying that these people, they're going to have to drink the cup of the dregs of the wrath of God. And when Jesus was getting ready to go to the cross, God had a cup completely filled, ready to pour out on the entire world. In the book of Revelations, it's called a vial. The term vial simply means cup. It's all the same word. But the vial in Revelations, what was it full of? It was full of the dregs of the wrath of God. What was the cup full of that was prophesied by Isaiah? It was the dregs of the wrath of God in this cup. When Jesus is praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he says, Father, you have given me this cup to drink. I always wondered, why was it, is he just talking about going through the process? Because he knew the process. But you see, I think it was at that point that Jesus came to full realization that what he was going to do was do more than die. He was going to literally ingest into his body all of God's anger and wrath that was prescribed for the human race. And when he was standing back and he said, Father, no, is there any other way? Can you imagine knowing and understanding the anger and the wrath of God? Can you imagine knowing it? And knowing it wasn't you that deserved it. Knowing that it's the entire planet that's supposed to have this vial of wrath poured out upon them. People are still reading the book of Revelation, wondering when that vial is going to be poured out. I got good news for you. That vial was drank 2,000 years ago. Ingested into the body of Jesus Christ, where he bore the wrath, the anger, and the punishment of God for the sins of the entire world.